welcome everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thank you for joining us. I'm pretty sure we have members all over from all over around the world. So thank you for taking the time to join us. My name is Tony Joy. I'm with Sound Particles, coming live from sunny Los Angeles. So very excited to do this webinar for all of you people. We will be talking about synthesizers and music and spatial and how you can be creative in this space. Joining me today is the one and only amazing Dan from KVR. I will let Dan introduce himself.
Hi, I'm Dan with KBR. I'm coming to you from the San Diego area, a bit south of where Tony is. And thanks so much for joining us today. I'm going to let Tony take the lead and just occasionally prompt the process. So once again, thank you for joining us.
Sounds good. Thanks, Dan. Let me share my screen and start there. So, like I said, Sound Particles, we are a small company. We are based in Portugal in a small town called Liria. And I am the only particle outside of Portugal. I live in the US, as I mentioned earlier. So, a quick history about Sound Particles in case that we have guests who doesn't know about us. Sound Particles is named after our flagship. The company is named after our flagship software called Sound Particles. I won't go into too much detail about it, but what it does is CGI for sound. Okay, this is how we started.
Tony, sorry to interrupt.
Yes.
By the way, I'm João from Sound Particles. I'm just interrupting because your microphone is a little bit too low.
It's quite low.
Yeah.
Oh, is it? How about now?
Now it's
much
perfect.
better.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Thank you so much for letting me know. Technology is good when it works, right? So yes, back to how we started, who we are. So we are a spatial audio company. What we are known for is massive sound design at scale. So you might say, I never heard about Sound Particles, but if you have seen any of these movies, right, or TV shows, like Game of Thrones, the Ascent game, or if you've seen I Want to Dance with Somebody, Nope, Dune, you experience Sound Particles already, right? So that's what we are known for. And of course, we also make other products like plugins, and then the star of the day, a SkyDust, which is a brand new synthesizer we released just a couple months ago. So before we jump into SkyDust, I want to real quickly show you what Sound Particles, the flagship software, does. Because as Dan agreed during our call the other day, it helps bring into perspective how the synth came about, right? So like I said, in a nutshell, Sound Particles is a standalone spatial audio workstation. What does it allow you to do? You can create a new session and say, I want to create sound in spinning in a circle like that. This is the original sound, right? And then you can turn that into something like that. And of course, you have templates to choose from and do all that good stuff very easily. So I have a session here that I made before. The idea is very simple. I have one track called Whistles. I am trying to create a stadium full of people, okay? A virtual stadium full of imaginary people, and each person is a particle. That's the idea. And each particle is a brand new sound. How are they created? So I have a track called Whistles and have 8 source files. So that's a source file I just gave the software, right? You can record something, use your Zoom or your iPhone, use your recorder and record something, or use sample files that you already might have. That's another source file. So I have 8 source files for this one track, and I'm asking the software to create 50 particles based on these 8 source files moving around in a 3-dimensional space. That's what Sound Particles does. So keep in mind, these 50 particles are equivalent of 50 tracks in your DAW. So that is one track creating 50 brand new sound particles in space. Then I have another track creating 80 particles. So you do the math, you're looking at just 5 tracks in Pro Tools. That could be the equivalent of 500 or 600 tracks in your DAW. And what does it sound like? So let's hear. Pretty cool, right? So how did we hear it? Remember, I created an imaginary virtual stadium full of people. And how would we record a stadium in real life in Los Angeles or Madrid, Spain or Delhi, India? We would go with a microphone and a recorder. Same concept here. You have a virtual stadium and you have virtual microphones. Ta-da! So I have an Atmos mic in the dead center. I can have a camera mic in the back. I might have a camera shot for the movie from the back of the stadium. I can have another mic in the front for a different camera, so forth and so on. You can have a mono mic, 5-1 mics, 7-1 mics, as many microphones as you need in the same session. The way we term it is it's format agnostic. When you create a brand new session in Sound Particles, you can actually say, I don't even know what format I'm creating in yet. You can just start creating sound design and then choose the format later, including custom formats, right? This is how it all began. Like I said, I'm not going to do a deep dive into Sound Particles today, but I wanted to show everyone where it all began. We created Sound Particles, the standalone software, which has a spatial audio engine built in, our own engine, which can handle hundreds or thousands of particles or objects, as some of you might be aware of in the spatial world. But the difference here is we can handle hundreds, thousands, or millions of particles in a three-dimensional space. That's what we are known for. That's the core, the crux of the company. And we are known for democratizing spatial sound design, because remember, this session can be done using headphones. I can have an Atmos mic and all I have to do is turn on binaural and work on the session using headphones at my home. And when I go to a stage in Hollywood with Atmos, all I have to do is turn it off and choose the right outputs for my mic, and it will translate well. So we thought we do this for sound design very well, like you could see from our clients, right? We've been used by the who's who in the industry. So we thought, why not take the same concept and bring it to music? Why can't our customers, or myself and you, why can't we create music first and then worry about formats? And SkyDust was born. So let me hide my Safari and Sound Particles, and let's take a look at SkyDust. So this is a Pro Tools session where I believe I have 7 or 8 instances of SkyDust. Some of them are in stereo, some of them are in 5.1, some in 7.1.2. I'm going to hit play, and keep in mind I still have Zoom running. I still have Sound Particles hidden but still running, and I have Pro Tools. Keep an eye on the CPU meter while I hit play. Pretty cool, right? I think I clicked on system usage during the playback, didn't I? But to give you an idea, I believe it was hovering around 25 to 30%, right? Not even that much. Right, I want to start off with that because every time we speak about even 5.1, people get scared saying, oh my God, that's going to bring my machine down, right? No. So we've done many things in this specific product, right? So let's take a look at SkyDust. This is what it looks like, right? And the whole idea is, like I said earlier, we want everyone to create music first and not worry about, should I be writing in stereo? What happens if 5.1 goes away next year? What happens if some other new format comes in? That should not be a concern at all. In SkyDust, we took the same spatial engine from Sound Particles application, which I showed you a moment ago, right? That's built into the synth. And if you look at this banner, in the dead center, there's a virtual microphone. And so even if you work in stereo, you can choose how you want to mic the particles in SkyDust. So if I play a note, that was a XY mic in stereo. You know what? I want to hear it in binaural. I want to hear how it really sounds. Oh, let's try another preset. Pretty cool, right? So the idea is you might be only working in stereo today, and that's fine, right? But what SkyDust enables you to do and your music is that it's created in spatial, even if you're sticking just to stereo today, right? Maybe 6 months from now or 2 years from now, you need to go to spatial. All you have to do is change the width of your track and just change the output to whatever you need. So, for example, in this hi-hat, I actually have it in a 7.0 instance, right? And what that allows me to do is I can still keep in mind, like I'm still using headphones to monitor, but every time I hit play, the hi-hat is panning by design. I don't have to use a panner. I'm randomizing it. We will look at all that in a minute. But this is just the tip of the iceberg of what SkyDust can actually do. Now, with that said, let's take a deeper dive into SkyDust itself. Dan, any thoughts so far?
Yes. I think we should mention here early on that I believe we're giving away a copy of SkyDust, are we not? At the
Yes,
end?
we are. Yes, we will be
So
announcing that at the end.
So be sure to stay till the end if you're just now joining us, and we will be announcing. We will be choosing at random someone to receive a copy of SkyDust.
Yes, thank you, Dan. So, yeah, let's dive into SkyDust then, shall we?
Yes.
So, this is the main page of the plugin, right? So, let me actually make sure I have the right track selected for that. Okay, so now I can hide Pro Tools again. So this is the main page where you can choose the presets, where you can also choose something called a sub preset. What that means is, so this is of course the main preset, but each tab which we will look at also gets a sub preset that you can change. You might have found something spatially cool that you want to save for another patch. So this tabs is essentially cycling through the presets in each respective tab. So instead of having to switch through tabs, I can say I like the sound, but I don't like the way it moves. So I can turn on spatial and just flip through presets. Right? Again, the idea is we want you to be creative without technology being a block. It should support you. That's what we believe firmly. So that's the main tab where you have lots of presets to play with to get started.
How many presets does SkyDust come with, Tony?
Good question. I believe we are a little over 250, I think.
Nice.
I will have Jao confirm the chat or when he comes online later. But yeah, we have a good start and we are constantly working on it. And there he is.
Right now we have something like 300 presets in the latest version.
There you go. And hey everyone, this is Joao, and he's actually one of the creators who actually made some of these amazing presets. So he's a sound designer and an amazing QA person. And he's coming live from Portugal.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, thanks, Joao. So that's the preset page. And keep in mind, this is an amazing synthesizer by itself, okay? Even before we get into spatial stuff, the synthesizer is a power horse, a workhorse, which of course gives you all the basic sources you would expect in any modern day synth, right? We also give you modifiers like wave folding if you wanted to do that. And you get 8 oscillators per note. So keep in mind, from the initial sound particles I showed you, the particles you see are oscillators. So each note gets up to 8 oscillators. So if you play 10 notes, that's 80 particles or 80 objects for those of you who are familiar with the spatial workflow. That's one instance, one instrument. So if you're creating a song with SkyDust, you can go easily into the hundreds range of particles or objects, and you already saw how easy it is on your machine. So that's not going to be an issue at all. So this is the oscillators tab. You get 8 oscillators each with all those sources and the modifiers. You also get envelope generators, and you get to choose the flavor of the envelope generator that you want to use for SkyDust. And again, this can be tweaked per oscillator. You also get LFOs with modifiers, of course, per oscillator. Again, so things you would expect to see in any modern day oscillator. You have a filter tab where you can have a filter that's global with any of these flavors, with keyboard mapping and velocity mapping built in. And let's say you created something cool. You can save it as a preset just for the filter tab. You also get filters per oscillator if you want to do that. So if you want to get tweaky, welcome to SkyDust. You can do that. So that's filters. Then we have an FM tab where you can actually use, let's say, oscillator 7 to modulate oscillator number 5 and number 4. I also want to add some feedback. And you can see it visually, right? And so I just use the oscillator 1's feedback. That's why you actually see oscillator 1 doing the feedback. Oscillator number 7 is being used to modulate number 5 and number 4. Again, easily seen by the graph. You can choose to hear it, or you can say, I don't want to hear it. I am using it just to modulate something else. So that's the FM tab. You have a pitch tab where we have added some cool stuff. Of course, you can have a global pitch and use an envelope generator to tweak it to how you want the sound to be, right? Or again, you can go oscillator by oscillator. So when I played the THX sound earlier, the way we achieve that sound, if you look at the graph, it's actually doing a 0 to value random behavior. And what's happening is we have each of those nodules starting in space and moving around. It's not just one sound, it's 8 sounds per note in space. Pretty cool if you ask me. And again, in the pitch tab, you can go per oscillator and tweak the pitch of every single oscillator. Spatial tab, this is where the magic happens, right? This is what really makes SkyDust shine. So you can use an envelope generator and say, either globally, I want everything to start right there, and then I want, let me turn it off. I want it to attack towards this side taking this much time, and then decay, and then sustain the back. But I want it to be randomized. I don't want it to be precisely in the back, but somewhere in that area. So that's what this slider does, randomization. Then I want to release it to the front in about that much time. So it's attacking to that side, it's going to the back, I let go, it's going to the front. But that was every single oscillator. Guess what? You can do that with every oscillator too if you wanted to. I cannot express. Oh, go ahead.
Hey, Tony, I think we should advise folks who are not using headphones to use headphones.
Yes, if you can, put on your headphones. Because we are broadcasting actually. Let me switch it to binaural too so we can actually hear how it sounds in 3D.
Yes.
Right? So thank you for that, Dan. I really appreciate you pointing that out to everyone who's watching. So that's the spatial tab where the magic really begins. Because like I said, you can set each oscillator to have its own position in space. And this is format agnostic. That's key. This is not a panner you're using. This is built into the sound you're creating no matter how you listen. Like you just noticed, I just switched from stereo to binaural, and I can just as easily switch to 5.1 or 7.1 or 7.1.2 just like that. That's why this is key. Again, you can keep working in stereo while creating spatial music. So that was the envelope generator in the spatial tab. You can also use movement modifiers and make it even more visually simple, if you will. You can say I want oscillator number 7 to start here, then go in circles, then go to the back. When I let go, you can change the azimuth and the elevation as well. So that crazy guy is oscillator number 7 right there. Right, so the idea is, again, with 1 or 2 clicks, you are able to create a sound and determine, okay, I want this to be oscillator 1 to be here, 2 to be here, 3 to be in the back, so forth and so on. Another thing I try to point out to the artists that I meet is that when we say spatial, of course, we all understand we are talking about music that's all around us, but keep in mind there is space between 2 speakers as well. Right? Even if you're purely working in stereo, you're like, I don't ever want to go, I don't know, 5.1 or Atmos, that's fine. You can still say, I want my oscillator to start in the left, attack to the right, sustain towards mid-center maybe. You get the idea. And not just that, you can even say oscillator 1 should be towards the left, oscillator 2 should be in the center, 3 should be maybe fluttering between left and right. There's so much things you can do. Your sound becomes wide. It's not about panning a sound in left and right. This is completely different. This is where you're creating a patch that spread between the space between speakers. It can be 2 speakers, that's fine, or it can be 6 speakers or 12 speakers. Or if you're working in Japan and you're into the 22.2 workflow, you can have, yes, 22 speakers and 2 subs, and yes, we support that. All the way up to 6th order ambisonics, because I know KVR community is a community full of developers and geeks who live and breathe technology. So we have built in lots of technology under the hood, but at the same time, we would like to think we made it so easy to use, so that when you're creative, when you are in a creative mode, let me correct myself, when your right brain is active, you don't have to think about the technology. It becomes invisible. So that's a spatial tab. Of course, you can sync your LFO to BPM as well. The next tab is the arpeggiator tab. Of course, you get a very good arpeggiator that you would expect again in any modern day synth. We also have a sequencer where you can actually have a mono keyboard, a pitch bar, or a poly keyboard, and you can add steps just as easily, and you get pages made again very easily. All you have to do is just add more steps. You can disable some steps to test how it sounds and all that. You can force a scale and say, I want this to be in C major, so when you play the note A, you actually hear A minor. But where it really shines is you can actually add other parameters in here. So let's say pan control. How about arpeggiating pan control? I can actually say I want my sound to pan in BPM, in steps. Can I do that? Yes, I can.
A spatial arpeggiator.
Spatial arpeggiator, my friend. And not just that. So keep in mind, you can randomize it too. So you can say step 2 is going to be somewhere in the back of my head, but not exactly the same place every single time. This is key for our brains, because our brains prefer some randomization because it's new. And that's what music does to our brains, right? You're listening to some amazing music. It's amazing usually when something unexpected happens, right? Same with music production techniques too. When something happens that your brain didn't expect, it becomes magic. So you can create that magic very easily. So not just panning, you can actually arpeggiate any parameter of maybe just one oscillator. So I can actually say, I want to move the elevation offset of oscillator number 4 in BPM. So it's actually going to step by step move up and down. How cool is that? That's one of my favorite features. And just to clarify, you can actually add multiple parameters. It will create new pages if you ran out of space in the first page. So let's keep adding more. And as you can see now, you just have an arrow and you can just scroll through pages. So yes, this is a very simple looking synth on the surface. Again, focused towards creation. Right brain centric GUI, but if you want to go left brain deep, you can do that as well. Very powerful. You also get some effects, right? Distortion, bit crush, delay, reverb, all that. And it will be in the same width as your instance. So this is a stereo instance of the plugin. If this was a 712 instance, it will be a 712 reverb or a 712 distortion. We also give you 8 additional envelope generators and 8 additional LFOs for you geeks. So you can actually assign it to any parameter that you like. And this is in addition to everything you've seen already in the other tabs. So you can do all that. And one of my favorite tabs here is the matrix. So this is a tweaky tab, if you will, where you can actually tweak and mess with multiple things. And one thing I tend to do a lot, let me pull up maybe this tab, that preset. So you can actually say I have a macro here, right? You can have multiple macros. So right now macro A is changing the drive weight and it's assigned to my modulation wheel. So it's changing drive weight ratio, LFO depth, and LFO depth of 4. I can also say I want it to change my elevation offset of oscillator number 2 as well. But I don't want it to move it that much, so I can actually change the curve for each parameter. So you can actually create complex macro wirings within. And once again, you can add as many parameters as you want, okay? Which is cool in itself. But one thing I personally use a lot is, it's already here, but if not, you can create a new one. And I can say set my MIDI aftertouch to, some of you probably gave this comment, elevation of all oscillators or just one oscillator. So when I press the keys further down, the sound rises above, and I let go, it comes back down. This is also a good time to mention that in the latest update the free update that we released for SkyDust, now we also support MPE. So if you have a Rolly keyboard or Expressive E Osmos, you can create really reactive music. When I say reactive, every wiggle of your finger, if you're a good player, unlike me, I shouldn't be playing too much. But if you're a very skilled, trained player, each nuance of your finger can be made to react within SkyDust. Because music is all about emotions, and I feel that having MPE support in a synth does just that. And add Spatial to the mix, well, you got radium. So I think it's almost a miraculous combination of features that my amazing team developers in Portugal have done. So a quick shout out to all these amazing geniuses we have in Liria, Portugal, who work so hard to bring all these new features to all of us in such lightning speed, if you will. So that was SkyDust. We also make some plugins, but before I jump into plugins, I just want to ask Dan if you want to add anything specific about SkyDust that maybe I missed out on.
No, I mean, you've touched on just about everything. I do maybe want to double back on the idea of using MPE or even just Aftertouch to manipulate things spatially. The idea that I can play a chord and then push into it and change its position in space is a whole new aspect of expressivity that really haven't even thought about much yet. So it's terrific that you've made it that tactile to where I can manipulate spatial elements just from the keyboard as I play.
Exactly. And another thing that I think even I took for granted when SkyDust first came out is that keep in mind this is not exclusive assignment. So I can have Aftertouch do changing something else too, like
Right.
Filter resonance, for example.
Sure.
So when you push down, it not only rises up, the texture itself changes. So
Very
you
cool.
can have, so you can link multiple things. This is where it gets a bit of a rabbit hole, a creative rabbit hole, if you will, where you can create magical wiring in between. This is as close as it gets to physical wires where you would use in a real life synthesizer, right?
Yes.
And let's say you create some magic. That's why the sub presets matter as well. You can create a sub preset for your MPE controller, save it hardwired for no matter which preset you might choose here.
Very nice.
So yeah, that's SkyDust. Shall I show the plugins real quick then, Dan?
Yes. Let's look at the plugins.
Perfect. So again, I won't be doing a deep dive into the plugins today because I want to put the focus on SkyDust, but I think I'll give you a quick glimpse of what else we do here at Sound Particles. The first plugin I'm going to show you is called Air. It does one thing and it does one thing right. It simulates air. Why? Because you can simulate distance. Because if you think about it, if there's a helicopter 2 miles away from you in an open field and 1 mile away it's coming closer, how does your brain know it's coming closer? The amount of air that's in between that sound and your ears. And this plugin simulates that. Okay, let's see how good it is.
Oh, I missed my flight.
Hey,
That's bad.
not yet. I just brought it back. There you go. So yeah, it's a very simple plugin. It simulates distance using complex mathematics that our 5 PhDs in-house did lots of work on. Yes, on the surface, it's a very seemingly simple looking low-pass filter, but it actually does the right amount of EQ for a given distance. And believe it or not, this is going to save you time on the dub stage.
And I see temperature and humidity there. So if I wanted to simulate the Martian atmosphere,
You could, pretty much. So, excuse me, this is what happens when you have too many geeks in-house at the company, right? Because we figured out air affects sound, and the next question then is, we are not happy with that, right? Geeks are never happy. So if air affects sound, what affects air? Temperature and humidity. You want to go to Mars? Go to Mars, right? So you can go all the way up to, I didn't even check before. Yeah, you can go up to -22. Mars, not yet, but close. So we have some presets. You can choose Death Valley in summer if you wanted to go crazy, or you can actually say it was shot in Los Angeles. Today it was 72 degrees and about 20% humidity if you're lucky, and it will sound like that place. It's a seemingly simple plugin that does one thing right, but it does that one thing very, very well. That was Air. We also have a baby version of Air called Air for Music. This is a free plugin, by the way. The idea is very similar. As you probably noticed, the differences, the main two differences are, this one can go up to 20 miles. Air for Music goes up to 500 feet, because you don't want your drummer to be 20 miles away, right? Yeah. So this plugin, again, is a very simple plugin. It simulates depth without adding the mud that too much reverb or delays might cause. And that's a free plugin. So if you don't have it yet, go to soundparticles.com and download it for free and let us know how you like it. So that was Air. So the next question was, so we have Air, right? Let me kill this one. We can make the helicopter seem like it's flying in and out. Wouldn't it be cool if you could point and say, I want a helicopter while it's flying around. I want it to be here, then I want it to move like this. What if I could point? And we created an app or plugin. My bad. It's called Space Controller. What it allows me to do is open up my phone, and there's no voodoo, I promise you. I open up the app, and as long as Bluetooth is enabled, now I can just start panning. Black magic. Now, it's called Particle Magic. So it's Space Controller. So I can say it's flying around, right? It's flying away, but
That is voodoo.
this is geekery, my friend, from Portugal.
It's techno voodoo.
Yeah, so that Space Controller, right? You can do multiple formats. You can come in stereo and come out binaural like I just did. Or if you're working in Spatial, you can come in 712 and you can spin the sound around using the phone or using the mouse. You can cross convert as well. So if you're someone who's trying to get into Spatial, but you don't want to invest in 5.1 or 7.12 speaker systems just yet, create a 5.1 session in Pro Tools or Logic or any other DAW of your choice. Throw this plugin in and use it as a binaural converter, so you can actually put on headphones and start dipping your toes into spatial music production, right? It's a very easy way for you to dip your toes into spatial music production. That was Space Controller. The next one I'm going to show you is called Density. So this one is a loudness based panner. So we thought, would it be cool if I had some drums, and as the drummer played louder, it came closer to me, or the other way around. Or what if when something got loud, it moved from left to right? That's what this plugin does. So let me solo. So keep in mind, this is a panning only plugin. It does not do any compression, even though it has parameters that say threshold, ratio, attack, and release. What the threshold means is at what level should it start panning. Ratio, how much should it pan. Attack and release, you get the idea. How fast should it respond? How soon should it start panning? You can choose to start at the speakers or at a custom point and say I want the drums to start here, then come towards me along this line as it gets louder. Or I can say start at the speakers and then come towards me as it gets louder. Or flip the direction and say start in my face, then go away from me as it gets louder. Like that. Or start at the speakers, go behind my head. Right? Pretty cool. Or maybe it's not drums, maybe it's something else. Let me see if I have an energy panner here. Yep, right here. So this one is a high perk, I believe, or low perk. Yeah, so this one, maybe I don't know what to do with it, right? So I don't know, I need some inspiration. I can roll the dice. Nah, maybe. That sounds cool. So this sounds cool, but I don't want it to keep moving from here and back and forth. I can choose sliding mode, which will actually keep moving following that path. Inspiration is only one click away, my friends. This is also a good segue. I need to go back to SkyDust because I forgot to mention one very, very important thing in SkyDust. You have the same roll the dice randomizer built into SkyDust. Ta-da! So maybe you're looking for an idea, an inspiration. All you have to do is just click the dice and it will actually choose a random preset or create a brand new sound from scratch. Right, so let's see what that sounds like. Okay. Oh, I have solo on somewhere, don't I? I do. Let's clear that. Okay, so let's try that. A brand new patch that no one has ever heard. Right, and let's say I like the sound, but I don't like the way it moves. So I can actually lock the pitch and the timbre and say only roll the dice on the arpeggiator and the spatial tabs now. So, or I can just change the spatial patch, which is again, like I said, it's a great way to get inspired with just one click. So yeah, roll the dice, see what you come up with, which is, like I was showing before I went back, is built into Energy Panner, which is a loudness based panner. We have something similar called Brightness Panner. The key difference is in loudness, in Energy Panner, it's panning based on loudness, the volume of the incoming signal. In the Brightness Panner, it's based on pitch, frequency, or incoming MIDI notes. Okay, so keep in mind, right now I'm only showing stereo workflows because I wanted to emphasize that everything we make works amazingly well in stereo. Okay, don't take my word for it. Let's take a listen to it. So I'm going to solo the track without the plugin. Now with the plugin. Very simple to use. You set about what frequency it should trigger the panning, how fast or slow it should move, or use the randomizer. So that's Brightness Panner. And both Energy Panner and Brightness Panner can use sidechain. Again, I won't go deep into the plugins today. Maybe we will do another webinar on that. But you can actually have some other vocals trigger the panning of hi-hat. I don't know. You go, you think about it, you can come up with amazing workflows. I actually often use Energy Panner in sidechain on vocals. So I can actually sidechain and say the vocals stay here until the sidechain, the other singer starts singing, then the vocals take a step to the side. Right, so you can actually have your own music react to different tracks using these plugins. And the last but not the least, the plugin I'm going to show you is called Density. Okay, I'm going to show you two quick examples. Let me choose the brass. I'm going to bypass it. Oops, wrong one. There we go. So this is the original sound. What does it do? It's a chorus plugin with the magic of particles built in. Again, all these plugins work in Spatial. Just want to point that out. Where's my 712? Yeah. So including Energy Panner, right? I showed you in a stereo configuration the example, but keep in mind these plugins work in pretty much any format you can think about. 714 up to third order ambisonics for Energy Panner and Brightness Panner. And on Density, you can go all the way up to 6th order ambisonics or NHK 22.2. So coming back to the example, I had a brass track, and what I'm doing here is you can choose between a basic tab, a detune tab, or a multi-pitch tab, where you can actually have multiple modules, right? You can create a new module, and then you determine what pitch and how many particles it should create, or how many voices. So you can create harmonies using Density, which is my next example. So I have a vocal sample here from an amazing artist by the name Nakul Abhyankar. We did a webinar with him very recently. So this is him singing. So I'm going to basically throw my brass patch and see how it sounds. Oops, what happened there? Okay, looks like Zoom is distorting my Pro Tools output all of a sudden. Ouch. Let me try. I might have to reopen Pro Tools. Oops. Sorry about that, everyone.
We can
Hopefully
blame Pro Tools
or Zoom. I don't know which one it is.
or
One of
Zoom.
them.
Exactly.
Yes. So while we wait for Pro Tools to reopen, any thoughts so far, Dan?
The potential of it is profound. I mean, just the idea that I can animate oscillator objects in a surround context, a spatial context, dovetails nicely with what Logic allows me to do. And I can even output those files in such a way that they can be played back using the spatial capabilities of iTunes. So I
Right.
can really, for the first time, spatial audio can not only be created easily, but can be deployed to people using a commonly available format like iTunes. It's really exciting stuff. There's not many tools that can play into that, and this is by far the most advanced set of spatial tools for the music space that we've ever seen.
Thank you, Dan. I'm glad you brought that up because until SkyDust came along, not because I'm not saying this because I work for Sound Particles, but as a mixer engineer myself, that's my background. I've been a scoring mixer for almost 20 years now. Until SkyDust came along, spatial audio was all in the hands of the mixing engineer, not in the hands of the creator or the artist. Artist was doing what they're doing until now, creating in stereo or mono. Then they ask an engineer to upmix it to Atmos or spatial. What SkyDust allows you to do, and even these plugins, is that every single sound you create, or even the very first note you create, you have control over the spatialness of it. So I firmly believe we are doing something amazing here by bringing
So,
spatial music to the hands of the creator to the very first note. I think that's key. Let me try my luck and see if this is working.
I'm I'm
Sorry.
I'm actually excited by the prospect of venues that put in an Atmos system and thereby allow electronic musicians to express themselves in a spatial context, in a live context. A dance
Yes.
floor that is the center of an Atmos system.
Well, I have even better news for you. So Atmos system will be ideal, right? But let's be realistic. Adding multiple stacks of height and surround rigs takes time and effort and resources. Some
Mhm.
venues are doing it. Not every venue can do it. But
Sure.
something like SkyDust, I had an artist who told me that, hey, I can always add just one additional stack of PA in the back, or even use the side fills. And what you can do is you can have a quad instance of SkyDust.
Sure.
So the whole show can remain stereo, traditional, but whenever the keyboardist plays the synth, things start flying around, right? So you don't have to, so here's another cool thing. As a mixer, I think you might also appreciate this. Sometimes we get a new toy, we move everything around, and then it becomes a mess. Just because you can go spatial doesn't mean you need to go spatial,
Right.
right? The lead vocals can stay in the center, that's fine. It's okay and it's amazing if you can creatively use it to spin around, but just because you can doesn't mean kick drum needs to be in the back.
Right.
So my point being, the show, a live show can remain stereo, but like you said, an Atmos will be ideal, but you can also use additional magic fillers in between using just
Sure.
quad, right?
Yep. Yep.
All right, one last try. Okay, I have it. We have sound again, people. So let me bypass the plugin just so we have reference point. So this is the original source file. And I'm using my brass patch just to check. That was just a random coincidence. It sounds decent, but Nakul, the artist, he actually made an amazing patch for his vocals, and guess what this sounds like now? Density, people. That's density. I don't think I have to say anything. Mic drop at this point. So again, a very creatively inspiring tool. You can come in mono or stereo and then come out in any format you want. So that's pretty much most of the portfolio we make. We make some other additional stuff, but again, I want to keep this SkyDust centric and stereo and spatial centric. So, and we are also at 50 minutes. So I know I went 5 minutes over, but if you have any Q&A or if you have any questions from the group, Joao can perhaps share with us.
Yes. Hi there. So I have a couple of questions. One is for you, Tony. As soon as you began, someone asked, "What is your CPU?" Because you were showing the CPU performance,
Yes.
and they wanted to know what CPU are you using.
Let me share my screen again.
Mhm.
So here's my machine, very modest. It's a laptop.
So as you can see, it's kind of a okay machine. So probably you can use it in any kind of environment.
Yes. And
Couple
this
other questions.
session, yeah,
Sorry,
sorry,
sorry.
I also want to point out that, come on, I have 28 tracks in this session. Some of them are quad, some of them are 712. And, so that's a folder track right there. And I do have a handful of plugins if you look at my session right there. So it's not by any chance just a 4-track session I'm trying to showcase here. It's actually a session I would use for a production that I might be working on. And again, just to recap, it was using about 20 to 30% when I hit play earlier on a 16-inch MacBook Pro from 21. So if you have a better machine, which I'm sure you do, your machine won't even blink while you create spatial music using headphones. Bam.
Very nice.
Thank you, Tony. Other question was about the random on the spatial part of the sequencer. Someone asked if it is possible to do randomness on any part of the sequencer. Right now, what we have is what Tony showed, the random part. You can lock everything else and just keep the sequencer unlocked. And when you press the random, you will get a fully random sequencer. And someone suggested to have random per voice and the random per perimeter. We will add that to our wish list because that seems like a cool idea. Maybe in the future, who knows? Also, someone asked about the sample update, if it's free and what it's supposed to support. The sample update will be free. And stay tuned for the future because we will show exactly how it works in our usual videos. And someone else asked about alternate tunings. We already have that on our wish list, and we really want to tackle that, but we'll see when.
Let me interrupt you right there. So that's one tab I did not go over when I was showing SkyDust. So if you go to the settings tab, this is where you actually get to choose MP and all that. You also get polyphony. You can tune, yeah, not micro tuning yet, but you can tune the synth. Just want to point that out if you want to do 443 and all that. Another thing for those of you who are into binaural and such, you can choose from the standard HRTF datasets. You can also import your own software file. But yes, the tuning stuff is surely in our wish list, but keep in mind this synth is already deep, and like Joao said, we are working hard to bring even more features to you real soon.
What is the current version, Tony? Is it 1.0 or 1 dot something?
It's 1.1.
1.1, so it's very early in its evolution.
Yes, and keep in mind, we released version 1.0 in April at NAMM, and we are already at 1.1 in just a matter of few months. And the updates we did was actually some were very major because we actually added MPE, which is not easy. So again, a shout out to all the amazing developers and our CEO Nuno Fonseca, who's the brain behind all this magic.
Very nice.
And just to finish, I just want to say that I know that I received a lot of questions right now as I was talking. Anything that you feel that was not answered, please send us an email because we will answer really fast and really thoughtfully. And I want to say what our giveaway winner, who our giveaway winner is. So the winner will have a SkyDust stereo, and it is Monish Anand. We will get in touch with you today by mail, and thank you very much.
Congratulations.
Yes, congratulations. And Dan, I believe you also have a deal that's going to be for, right? So do you want to speak
We do.
about that?
It began yesterday and it will run for 1 week only. We have the best price on earth on sound particles, all of these products in the KVR
Nice.
marketplace. So just navigate to kvraudio.com/marketplace and you should have no trouble at all finding the sound particles best price on earth, 30%
Best
off
price
across the
on
board
Earth.
on
Man,
earth.
that's
Now,
that's amazing.
if you happen to be stationed on a lunar base or on Mars, you can use VPN and trick our system into believing that you're on Earth.
Haha, there you go. Cool. And also, yeah, once again, thank you everyone for joining us. If you have any questions or want to chat or have a one-on-one session with me, I'll be happy to do that for anyone who want to reach out. My email is my first name dot last name at soundparticles.com. So it's tony.joy@soundparticles.com. A huge shout out to KVR and Dan for joining us, for making this happen. So thankful we could share all this spatial and stereo magic with the KVR community. And thanks again to Joao, Katarina, and others in Portugal for doing all the behind the scenes work. So with that, I think we'll end this webinar, and we hope to see you again soon. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Tony.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dan. Thanks, Joao.
Take care.